Good people of a great nation, I welcome you back on the discussion segment of Development Focus with Gidi Ojo, where we extract issues of national importance, issues that can contribute to our national development in Nigeria. Today, we'll kick-starting this discussion segment by looking at the state of our human rights in Nigeria, appraisal of the human rights situation in Nigeria. And my first guest, who will be helping us to touchlight and highlight and extray this issue, is no other than the Executive Secretary of National Human Rights Commission. Is Anthony Okechukwu Ojukwu. You're welcome.
Thank you, Jide.
Yeah, he's a barrister at law. I was struggling with not wanting. I'm so used calling people barrister, Tony Ojukwu or barrister, but I don't remember that it's an aberration to call somebody barrister. It's Anthony Okechukwu Ojukwu Esquire. So Esquire is the appropriate word to use to qualify a learned fellow. Now, you're welcome on the show, sir. Happy Easter in advance. It's an Easter week. In a couple of days, we will have a Good Friday celebration, then Easter Sunday, then Easter Monday. And I hope this Lenten season has been very rewarding and fruitful to you, sir. It's a great honor and privilege to have you. I know how long it took me to get you on this seat. It's not an hot seat. It's a very warm, very cold seat. Now, we will be looking at the issue of the human rights situation in Nigeria. But first, let our viewers know who you are and what you do as Executive Secretary of National Human Rights Commission.
Okay, like I've been introduced, my name is Anthony Okechukwu Ojukwu. I've been working with the National Human Rights Commission since 2001. I came in there first as the Special Assistant to the then Executive Secretary, Appraisal, and then I rose through the ranks as being a director of virtually all the key operational departments, Director Investigation, Director Legal, Director Monitoring, Director, Executive Secretary's Office, and eventually I'm the Executive Secretary of the Commission. My work as Executive Secretary of the Commission, as the name is the Chief Executive Officer. I'm in charge of the day-to-day running of the office. We go even to the front lines to train soldiers that are in the front lines in Maiduguri. And of course, we also try to sensitize school children so that they inculcate the culture of human rights early in their career. Of course, we deal with market women, we deal with people who work in the motor parks, we deal with all strata of Nigerians. And now we are in the 36 states of the country, which was a kind of a key project I had to undertake when I assumed office, because I felt it would be unfair for any state not to have a human rights commission, because people must have a place where they can go and vent their complaints and be listened to. It's part of a healing process. So immediately I came into office, we were not in the 36 states, we were just in about 24 states. So then we took those steps to establish office in all the 36 states. So right now we are in the 36 states of the country. And of course, having been an old staff of the commission, I felt at inception we had to do a gap analysis. We had to do a gap analysis. Thanks for the support of development partners, our friends in the development work, like you, Professor Crawford them, Professor Zilo them, Professor Azinge them, Chino Biagwese, and they all rally around us. We set up a strategic priorities setting for the commission, where we identified the gaps, and then, of course, we had a strategic plan that would take us from 2019 to 2023, and that is what we are following. So I said the human rights agenda and also respond to human rights issues, because human rights issues can arise at any time. You saw what happened last year, the end
protest,
so nobody could have bargained for that. But the important thing is, if you have laid the infrastructure, we're able to rise up to the occasion, we rallied government, we rallied civil society, and we're able to respond to the issues that came up of the NSAS. Of course, now you have the culture of accountability for violations by police officers. All the investigation panels are going on in the 36 states of the country and Abuja here, and we intend to institutionalize that, because the gap that was there before was officers who go brutalize people and tell you, we'll kill you and nothing will happen. But I'm sure any officer is going to think twice now before he will tell you, I'll deal with you, I'll kill you and nothing, because something surely will happen. And so that's the kind of agenda setting we're trying to do. A culture of accountability for human rights violations is not going to be possible that there will never be human rights violation. But we want to make it clear that if there's a human rights violation, there will be a consequence.
Okay. Now, I want to plead with our viewers that at the appropriate time we will open the phone lines. Don't start to call in now. Let's chew and digest issues before you intervene. People are already calling us. Please, at the appropriate time, we'll open the phone lines and we'll make the information available that you can call in. Now, what's your overview of the human rights situation in Nigeria? National Human Rights Commission was established in 1995,
5 years.
even before the advent of the Fourth Republic.
Yeah.
And Nigeria was a signatory to the International Human Rights Declaration, 1948. Yeah. That's the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948. And now, even under the military administration, the Abacha administration felt the need for us to have a National Human Rights Commission. Now, what is the appraisal of this, the human rights situation in Nigeria as at this 2021?
Okay, whenever this question comes, it's always very interesting. I think in order to know where we are, we need to look at where we were. Like you rightly pointed out, as far back as Abacha, he realized that there was need for us to have a Human Rights Commission. And thanks to him, because I know all kinds of negative things have been attributed to Abacha, but at least this is something positive.
Exactly.
Even though at the point in time, he did it to just stun the world, because they felt he was a dictator. And he wanted to show them that...
I mean, after the killing of Prince
exactly.
Ogoninai and all of that, so he wanted to prove to the world that he's not a dictator.
Exactly. So, but that, of course, then it was a little bit difficult for people to really express themselves under the military, because the fundamental human rights section of the Constitution had been suspended. Of course, you know, that is the first thing. There was a coup announced, the Chapter 4 is suspended. So you are at the mercy of the authorities, their benevolence, if they go after you. And that is why a lot of human rights activists like Ganifa and me, all these people were arrested so many times, all of them suffered in the hands of the military, because the fundamental human rights aspect was suspended. So, but today, since 1999, the most important aspect of our Constitution is Chapter 4, which is the one protecting the human rights of Nigerians, as well as Chapter 2 for directory principles of state policy. So that is an improvement of the situation. Again, it's incrementally you see that people are more vocal. People are able to express themselves. Now, it is not as if people are not still arrested, you know, illegally or unlawfully, or people are not yet tortured. But unlike then, today, if anybody slaps Jidojo, he can go to court
and seek redress.
If a military man stops you today and tortures you, or you can take him to court, and the court will say what he has done is bad, and then fine him, or, you know, award compensation or damages to you. If police detains you today beyond the constitutional period.
Habeas corpus of 24 hours.
Exactly. So these are, these are improvements on the situation. People say, there are more violations and so on and so forth. Now, there are two things. We have created enormous awareness. People now even know they are right. Don't forget, so many years of military rule, these things were happening. People even thought it was the way of life, so they were not even complaining. Anyway, there was no avenue for you to complain, or even if you complain, in fact, you run more risk that you may even suffer more problem. But the situation now is that when your rights are violated, you can challenge it. You can challenge it, and that is a lot of improvement. Now, and authorities are struggling, for instance, to defend their human rights actions. You see police struggling. You see the military struggling. Before, they wouldn't even answer you. Right now, in the commission, if there's any complaint against the law enforcement agents, we go after those in law enforcement, and they must surrender them to come and account.
Yeah, there was this, sorry to pause here, there was this incident that happened when some soldiers asked, was it a driver, to roll in the mud as a punishment. Yes. And your commission wrote to the military authority that said they must produce soldiers within a period of time, and they were produced.
So these are improvements. We are not saying that the situation is uhuru. Nobody can say that in this country. With the insurgency, there are violations every day, both committed by Boko Haram. And of course, we train the soldiers in the field. We go to Damboa, we go to Damasak, we go to Bama, we go to Moguno to train them in the front lines at the risk of our lives. And when we talk with them, they also tell us their own side of the story, because you go out with your colleague in the morning, maybe 5 or 6 or so, to do your military duties, and as you are coming back, Boko Haram has slaughtered 2 of them in a very gruesome way. So it's so difficult to start telling the military officer that when he gets a Boko Haram person, he will not subject him to the same treatment, because of course we know the international law on prisoners of war. If you kill them, if you kill an opponent in crossfire, that's okay. But once you arrest him alive, you can no longer kill him. You have to now take him through the judicial process as a prisoner of war and give him opportunity of fair hearing and so on and so forth. So some of the soldiers, when they get, these insurgents who have killed their own colleagues, so it becomes quite challenging. But we tell them, this is why you are professionals. You are professional officers trained, and you have rules of engagement, which you have to follow. You can be court-martialed for not following the rules of engagement. And you have seen a lot of soldiers who have also been court-martialed because they did the wrong thing. So it is very challenging for a professional army to fight this kind of insurgency with with insurgents that are not obeying any rules. They are not obeying any rules.
Okay, let's walk us through what it takes. Walk us through first the institution called National Human Rights Commission. Your departments, your units, and how you coordinate that activity. I recall that just last week, the president sent the nominees for the board of the National Human Rights Commission to the Senate for screening and approval. Yeah. What added value is that to the commission?
Wow, the nomination of the board and the bringing of the board is in fact is life for us, because you can agree with me that this country is too large for one executive secretary to administer. That was why, in the first place, like I said, I made sure that there's presence of the commission in all the states, and each state has a state coordinator. Because it's difficult to stay in Abuja here and know what is happening in Zamfara. So now the board is made up of 16 members, and that means that the work of the commission will be strengthened by these 16 members. if a member is in Calabar, for instance, and there is a human rights activity going on in Calabar, I may not need to live here and go to Calabar. That council member in Calabar can do that duty because he's a council member, you know. So it will help, instead of, like, for instance, in a day, you cannot do more than 1 or 2 or 3 activities, and it has to be in one location. But if we have 16 council members working with the chairman and myself, that means we can do 16 different activities in one day. Can you imagine the huge impact across the country? Can you imagine the impact? So it is very clear that the impact of the commission will be felt more than 16 times the way it is being felt now. If our influence is being felt now, then imagine if that is multiplied 16 times. And the job of creation of awareness around human rights issues for a large country like Nigeria is enormous. So you need a council. The council will also help because a lot of decisions that could have been taken that has to go up can be taken at the council and save time.
That's sexual and gender-based violence.
Gender-based violence. We can route it to the service providers in any state.
Okay.
Because it's a national toll-free number, so you don't know where the call is going to come from. If it's coming from Katsina, we route it to our contacts in Katsina, to our office in Katsina, and to the service providers in Katsina. Because when a call comes, it may need, it could be psychosocial support the person needs, it could be medical support the person needs, it could be legal advice the person needs, it could be to go to the police the person needs. So we have service providers linked in the various states so that when that call comes, we can route it to that channel to get the necessary assistance. So every day we are deploying more and more ICT to make sure we reach to as many Nigerians as possible. And of course, it was a quantum leap for us to have offices in the 36 states. Because you can imagine if there is no office of Human Rights Commission in any state, how will you...
As it was many years ago.
Yeah. Because we started initially at inception in 1995-96 with 6 zonal offices. We had office in Kano, we had in Maiduguri, we had in Jos, we had in Port Harcourt, we had in Enugu, and then we had in Lagos. Those were the only 6 offices we had at inception. Then as time went on, then we now started increasing. But as at the time I took office, we only had office in about 24 states. But I'm happy to say now that we have at least a place where one can go and lodge. And what we are doing also, we are trying to have permanent offices. Because under the Paris principles, for our independence, we need to own our offices.
So that your landlord, if he commits a human rights violation, does not turn around and say, okay, I'm giving you 7 days.
Or could even be a politician.
All right.
You have an issue with it. So it is the basic principle is that for our independence, we should own our offices. So we are now moved into making arrangements to have our permanent offices. The 6 zonal offices were bought by the commission at inception. Last year, we are constructing 4 new offices, one in Ekiti, one in Imo, one in Katsina, and then one in Benue. This year, we are going to construct 1 office in Kebbi. We are going to do 1 in Anambra. We are going to do 1 in Adamawa, and then we are going to do another 1 in FCT. So we want to progressively now do our offices in all the 36 states so that nobody will come out and throw us out one day that we are handling a violation that is...
Okay. The very, very good progress you have made. You have appraised the situation. We are not where we ought to be, but we are not where we used to be. And then the infusion of technology, the fact that you have spread to 36 states and FCT, and then owning your permanent offices, more officers recruited. Now your nominal is about 1,000. Now, in spite of all this, how do you interface with state actors and non-state actors? What's your level of interface with state and non-state actors?
Yeah, like I told you at inception, we did a gap analysis. and drew up a strategic plan of action. Now, part of our strategic work plan is to work with non-state actors, because like this is a huge country, civil society groups, NGOs, we have an open door policy, and we collaborate with every single civil society that has the same objective of promotion and protection of human rights. Our doors are open. All our activities are collaborations with non-state actors, and in that way we are able to reach the nooks and crannies of this country. So it is a major plan of our work. Of course, with state actors, that is given, because we discovered that state actors are at the policy table. So if you don't sensitize them on human rights, it's going to be a big issue. You don't take it for granted that state actors are conversant with human rights issues. Some of them are not. So it is a major strategy that we work with state actors and not state actors, so that across board, everybody will be on the same page for human rights work. So it is part of our strategic work plan to work with state actors and non-state actors.
Okay, so if you assess your interface with state actors now, the police, the military, the law enforcement generally, what would be your assessment of the situation?
Now, the situation is improving every day. I can tell you, for instance, a few years ago, we started working with the military to establish human rights desks in all military formations. I can tell you that as of today, you have human rights desks in all, both in the Army, in the Navy, and in the Air Force.
Wow.
And also, our interaction with the military and the need to infuse and mainstream human rights into their work has also led to the creation of the Department of Civil Military Relations, which is, of course, housing the human rights desks in the military. Of course, we have permanent partnership with the Nigerian police. There's nothing we can do without working with the Nigerian police. We train them both in the police training colleges. We had established human rights desks as well in the police formation, but that project could not be completed because of funding. We couldn't sustain the funds to establish that at all strata. So maybe if you come at the zonal command or at the state command, you have human rights desks, but when you trickle down to the DPO to the, and to the police stations, you may not have that. Like the gender desks and all, these are all human rights mechanisms that are mainstreamed into the police work to make sure that at a certain level they are conscious of the human rights being mainstreamed into the work they do. And of course, like I said, we have a human rights institute where we train law enforcement agents, civil defense, military and police. We have a human rights institute. So that is the kind of infusion we are doing. And you can see there is a general, because of the long period of military rule, a lot of our law enforcement agents felt that human rights is not compatible with law enforcement. We are breaking that jinx every day. The State Security Service, the DSS, we encounter them and we make them to understand that the only sustainable way of law enforcement is to mainstream human rights into it. Before now, most law enforcement agents thought that human rights and law, that you cannot do law enforcement without violating human rights. But we are able now to convince them that what is more sustainable is to respect human rights while doing law enforcement. And it's an uphill task, but we are confronting it, and I can tell you that the psyche is changing gradually.
Okay, so it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Let's look at the human rights instruments available to Nigeria. We've signed on to quite a number of them. I talked about Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948. Yes. What are other instruments, including laws, that people can use for the promotion of human rights?
Now, of course, the mother of them all is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as far back as 1948. Of course, there are the other laws that constitute what we call the International Bill of Rights, where you have the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, of course, which is in the Chapter 4 of our Constitution. You have the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, where you have rights like right to work, right to health, right to social services, security services, and all those kind of rights, which are in our Chapter 2 of the Constitution. Chapter 2 of the Constitution is directive principles of state policy.
But he said not to be justiciable. You can't go to court on that basis.
Yeah, it is said not to be justiciable, but that does not mean that it cannot be realized, because states are directed to take every step to realize. I can give you an example. Look at education. The government now passed Universal Basic Education Act. What is that act saying? It's making education compulsory at that level. So you can now sue to enforce the right to education if it violates the Universal Basic Education Act.
Okay.
We have the National Health Insurance Act, which guarantees that certain insurance for health for certain categories of people. So if you're in that category and you are denied that, you can enforce it. So that is what they mean by gradual realization. It doesn't mean that it can never be. So as things improve, all these areas will, so it is not totally correct to say that they're not
justiciable.
Are justiciable. So then we have, we now have the CEDAW, Convention on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. We've been struggling to domesticate it in Nigeria, but certain parts of it have, of course, been domesticated, like the VAP Act and things like that. Of course, you have the Convention on the Rights of the Child. These are major international...
Which has led to Child Rights Act in 2004.
2003.
Yeah, 2003.
So these are at the international level. You have even Convention for the protection of rights of persons with disabilities now. Of course, you now have a disabilities.
National Disability Commission.
Down here in Nigeria, there are some. Of course, the Constitution is a key instrument in the country for the enforcement of human rights. You have certain laws like this Child Rights Act we have talked about. You have the Violence Against Persons
Prohibition Act.
You have things like the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015. You even have the Anti-Torture Act now, which was a quantum leap, for law enforcement. Because before the Anti-Torture Act, what we had was maybe the criminal code, for instance. We say you should not hurt anybody, grievous bodily harm, and so on and so forth. But the consequence of not having an Anti-Torture Act that correlated to the Convention Against Torture was that if a law officer tortures you and obtains evidence, if you go to court and he tenders that evidence and the accused person says, no, this evidence was obtained
under duress.
The court will do what we call a trial within a trial, which is to stop the main trial and investigate whether actually that evidence was obtained by torture. If that evidence was obtained by torture, the evidence is discarded. And then the trial goes on. But the officer who obtained the evidence by torture, nothing happens to the officer. So the difference now that we have an Anti-Torture Act is that it now becomes an offense. It has become an offense to obtain evidence by torture. So if the court does a trial within a trial now and discovers that an evidence was obtained by torture, it not only discards the evidence, the officer who obtained that evidence by torture has now committed, he will now be tried for obtaining evidence.
But sir, if some added criminal, if you don't torture them, would they own up to the crime?
Well, you have to find a forensic way, because torture can never be excused under any condition. That is one law all over the world. that the state can never be justified. Torture. There's no reason. Even if somebody is a kidnapper, even if somebody is an armed robber, that's not a reason to justify. We need to put up infrastructure to be able to do forensic investigation. There's no running away from it. Look at how a simple thing like CCTV camera, look at the help it can do in crime investigation. But we can't even have the discipline to install CCTV cameras and maintain them. So we have to do what we are supposed to do.
Okay, let's come to, you have a department that deals with civic and political rights. And I do know that National Human Rights Commission also observe elections. And you were also a former a commissioner, you know, NECON, way back then in Imo. you were also like a state resident electoral commissioner.
I was administrative secretary. There was no commissioner at my time.
So that's why I said you were like a resident electoral commissioner. That was in the 90s, yes, early 90s.
1995, 1993. After the June 12th election.
So you are like equivalent of resident electoral commissioner now. Now you have that wealth of experience in election. You now head an institution that also monitor elections, and you see this issue of violence in election, issue of vote buying in elections, and your people write this report. What do you do with those reports when you see them? Is that not a right violation?
Is, of course.
Look at Ekiti. Just 2 weeks ago, Ekiti by-election, state by-election, 3 or 4 people died, including a policewoman.
It is really disturbing that we are not yet getting our elections right in terms of free and fair and non-violent elections. And you see, the process of election reforms, which, of course, Justice Uwe's panel clearly stated. Some aspects of the Justice Uwe's panel report have been implemented, but one of them that has not been implemented is the establishment of election offensive
commission.
You know, there was so much jubilation that one of the professors in, I think,
Cross River,
yes, was jailed for.
No, it's in Akwa Ibom.
In Akwa Ibom.
Akwa Ibom, yes.
Was jailed a few days ago because of election offenses. But when last did you hear something about that? The normal courts are over congested to deal with election issues. It will be one of the key, advancements of this government if they can establish an election offenses commission. I think the National Assembly is working on that law. Now, we want to open our phone lines. Please, you can join us on our studio line 0809 987 1989. I have with me Tony Ojukwu Esquire, the Executive Secretary of National Human Rights Commission. Issues that borders on human rights violations, human rights promotion. That's the issue we want you to talk to. Don't come and start saying something else. But anything within the ambience of human rights, you are free to call in, make comments, or ask questions. The number once again is 0809 987 1989. Now, few years ago, the act setting up National Human Rights Commission was amended. What additional power did that, or what additional input, or did that law make? Because I've heard a lot of people commending that amendment, that it was one of the best things to have happened to National Human Rights Commission. Yeah, that law actually gave us the independence which we require under the Paris Principle. Like I said, we were set up by Abacha, and the commission then was looked upon as a two-place bulldog. Because
people are already calling in. You see, human rights situation is very key. Hello, good morning. Good morning, and where are you calling from? What's your name? Hello? Hello, good morning. Please move away from your... Please, when you call, move away from your TV set so that we can hear you. Please move away from your TV set. You can't be hearing yourself on the phone and on the TV. Please call back, the last caller. That's the number on the screen. You can call us and ask your question or make comment. So you are talking about...
A few things. So that act, for instance, entrenched the position of the commissioners, the commissioners of the commission.
Okay.
It made it so that you cannot be removed at the whims and caprices of anybody in authority. The second aspect was that it ensured that the funds of the commission were now under the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation.
Wow, that's a big...
That
financial autonomy.
Financial autonomy. Whatever money you are allocated during the year must be released 100%.
Okay.
Thirdly, it established, it made sure that...
Hello? Sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Hello? I think we are having issues with our lines this morning. Please call again, call back. Sorry. We are still willing to take your call in the last few minutes. The number is on your screen. Please call. And when you call, please tell us your name, where you are calling from. Do move away from your TV sets. So,
the third advantage was that the decisions of the commission can now be registered as decisions with the High Court and made enforceable like the decision of the court.
Wow.
That's an enormous...
So it takes the burden of the court.
Yes.
For adjudication. You are like a quasi judicial body now. Okay.
And that means that decisions of the commission cannot be enforced, through the Sheriff and Civil Processes Act, which the court uses to enforce its decisions. And fourthly, it created what we call a human rights fund, which is supposed to be a fund everybody should contribute to take care of.
Hello? Hello, please, what's your name and where are you calling from? Okay. Sorry, I think...
That act also established the Human Rights Fund, which is supposed to be a fund all levels of government, all companies can contribute to, all individuals, so that there will be a pool of resources to deal with human rights issues like happened during the EndSARS. You can never foresee, and you cannot expect government to foresee all the possibilities that can happen in the area of human rights. Even that act is before the National Assembly now, is going through another improvement. Now, this time, they want to harmonize both legislation, because there were two legislations, the Establishment Act and Amendment Act. So the National Assembly now wants to harmonize these two into one document. So
okay.
It will have to repeal one and enact one act where you get all the provisions. And this provision is also supposed to now discuss how the human rights fund will be resourced. Is it going to be something everybody, those people affected will contribute 0.001% or 0.5%, so that there can be a pool of resources? Because since that time it was created, no kobo has gone into it. And then, of course, also trying to align some of the functions that will make the commission more efficient and faster in carrying out its duties. For instance, if you find out that there is evidence in a premises, the commission can go and get that evidence. Now, the process where it has to go has to be streamlined. Do we have to go to court to get a court order, or can the commission, issue an order which it can use to go and carry out a search or get any document or any evidence it needs? These are the kind of amendments the National Assembly wants to do now. So this will further strengthen the commission in carrying out its functions.
Last year, you headed the presidential committee that investigated police brutality and all of that, to which you submitted. Was it after the EndSARS protest? And some police officers were indicted for prosecution. What was that committee about?
As part of the mandate of the commission to investigate human rights violations, the commission had been receiving complaints and police brutality over the years.
Okay.
So in 2018, the Commission, in collaboration with the Office of the Vice President, decided to start comprehensive investigation of complaints against police officers. Now, the Commission did the work, and in June 2019, it submitted that report to the President. Of course, the President now set up a 3-man panel to draw up a white paper from that report.
Okay.
3-man panel, the Solicitor General of the Federation and Permanent Secretary, Minister of Justice, the Executive Secretary of Human Rights Commission, and Inspector General of Police. So we met and then made recommendations on that outcome of that panel which I headed. And of course, the recommendations we made were the issues that the government used to respond to the NSAS protest, because those recommendations were available. Government has studied them, so it was very, very handy. That was why government was able to respond on time to the issue of NSAS, and that saved the day, really. You know, we really want to thank everybody who assisted us in that report, and that was able to save the day until hoodlums overtook the protest. Because the protest was fine, it was going on well, the issues were very clear, but at this stage, I think part of the challenge was inability to engage. You know, if at the point the five points we accepted, we had gone into engagement, maybe we would have saved the day.
I think it's about trust deficit anyway. Yeah. So let's try. There's a call. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Benson Ako. I'm calling from Nasarawa State.
Okay, where in Nasarawa State?
Maraba, sir.
Maraba, okay, Maraba in Nasarawa. Okay, what's your question or comment?
Sir, I'm really appreciate this program, and I think it's an opportunity to me to let you know something that I've been passing through for the past 4 years now. That was 2017.
What were you passing through? Very quickly.
I'm a hard-working man. I'm a POP man. So I do work for one man in Lagos. And I finished the work successfully. The work is very fine, and he's even living in the house now, owing me 300,000 naira. He refuses to pay me since then. So there was a time I told him that I'll report him to Human Rights Commission. He was pleading with me that he will pay the money December this, and I thought since then he have not paid anything up to today.
Let's send the report.
Okay.
And I'm a family of a man of a 4 family, wife and 3
children. Okay. The ES has just said, if you are watching, the Executive Secretary said you should file in a formal complaint. You know, you can go to their office at Maitama, 19 Aguiyi Ronsi, Maitama, ask that you want to file a complaint about breach of contract between you and your client, and then they will see what they can do about that. But as we wrap up, yes, what are the major challenges you see with human rights enforcement in Nigeria?
Of course, the issue of financial capacity to deal with all the issues arising is a major constraint, because you cannot do more than the resources you have.
So, with resources, I know, but because of time, what's your interface with organizations like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International? Do those organizations that have been writing somewhat damning reports about Nigerian situation, do you have any interface? Do you compare notes? Is there a peer review mechanism between and amongst you and them?
We work well in the sense that if Amnesty International or Human Rights Watch does a report against Nigeria, we now try to investigate those issues to find out the veracity.
Hello? Sorry, sir. Yes, what's your name and where are you calling from? Hello? Oh, we lost that call, sorry.
So we do compare notes, we do, because it's our own duty. If such a complaint is made about Nigeria, we now investigate to find out the veracity. So that's the nature of our relationship with them. We don't have any issues with Human Rights Watch or Amnesty International. They are doing their duty. If there is any human rights violation, they can speak out, just like any other Nigerian can.
So in 30 seconds, my time is up. What do you foresee as the way forward for enforcement, promotion, awareness on Nigeria, to Nigerians on human rights?
I think the Commission needs to use the new social media.
Okay.
Because that's the
more proactively
to reach the nooks and corners of this country. We already have a good working relations with the media, and then but we need more collaboration because it's an expensive business. Are
you working with Human Rights Radio? There's a Human Rights Radio now.
My challenge with Human Rights Radio is that they don't observe the rules of confidentiality and privacy that is required of a human rights institution.
Okay.
And they kind of pass off for the Commission because any atrocity they are committing is being attributed to the Commission, and that
as if it's your own institution. Okay.
Even the name is misleading. I don't even think they should use that name.
Actually. Okay, that's where we have to anchor it at this point. That would be the size of this segment of Development Focus with Jide Ojo. I want to thank you, Tony Ojukwu Esquire, Executive Secretary, National Human Rights Commission, a friend of the house. Thanks for honoring our invitation. I wish you a very joyous Easter celebration and more success. I'm not surprised at your giant feat. You are Mr. Human Rights, and it shows that your appointment is actually a meritorious appointment. I wish you greater success in life, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for the honor. And that will be the size of this segment. Please stay tuned as we have another discussion segment coming up shortly.